Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television live from Lagos. A quick reminder of our top stories. Election Petition Tribunal grants PDP presidential candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar leave to serve President Muhammadu Buhari copy of petition challenging his victory at the February 23rd polls through substituted means. Governors-elect and State House of Assembly lawmakers-elect receive certificates of return from Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) across the country. Political parties and civil society groups protest against delay in concluding Rivers governorship election. And British Prime Minister Theresa May to resign if Brexit deal finally secures majority in Parliament. ChannelsTV.com has more information for you, and on youtube.com/channelsweb you can watch our videos. You can also watch us on your mobile device via your browser or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. Besides giving you access to news and updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 app have an eyewitness feature that you can use to share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. And now to a rather disturbing story. A Lagos High Court sitting in Ikeja has ordered a school proprietress in Olodiapapa area of Lagos, Mrs. Uche Owen, to pay 25 million naira as damages to a 5-year-old pupil of the school, Destiny Kalu, who became blind after he was flogged for not paying his school fees.
Persons will be moving into the facility.
Inyema Kalu had in 2013 dragged Mrs. Owen and his class teacher, Mrs. Udwak Sam, before the court for flogging and inflicting severe injuries to his right eye over non-payment of school fees. In his statement of claim, the child alleges that on June the 20th, 2011, Mrs. Owen came to his classroom and flogged all the pupils that had not paid the school fees. He explained to the court that the proprietress further instructed their class teacher, Ms. Udwak, to flog them more. Destiny claimed that while being flogged, his right eye was covered with blood as a result of the cane injury inflicted on him by the teacher. Destiny further claims that his class teacher neglected him as he bled internally and water gushed out of his right eye all through the school hours until he was picked up at the school at the closing time by his father after every staff of the school had abandoned him and gone home. The right eye was later operated on at the hospital without success. Doctors reported and have revealed that Destiny's right eye was permanently damaged and cannot perceive light as a result of the severe damage to the eye. However, in her statement of defense, the teacher claims that Destiny may have sustained the injury on his right eye during a fight with another pupil in the school. The proprietress also denied being responsible for the injuries sustained by Destiny. The trial judge, however, held the two defendants liable for the permanent injury sustained by the child. The judge also held that the defendants owe a duty to care to the child, but breached that duty by flogging and inflicting injury on him. Very sad indeed. But more stories now. Days after the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, opens a resettlement and relief camp in the Igondo area of Lagos State for the victims of the Itafaji building collapse. The facility is yet to be occupied. Those affected in the ongoing demolition of defective buildings are also expected to be resettled at the relief center. Channels Television's correspondent Darido reports.
In Lagos Island, structurally defective buildings are being pulled down, while some have caved in. In both cases, there are victims, some willing to share their painful experience.
My child, Taiwo and Kandi, one died. Remember in the from General Hospital now. So I don't talk too much about it.
As victims express feelings of grief, the issue of resettling them is still not settled. 3 streets away from Master Street in Itafaji, a makeshift shelter is provided by the local government in collaboration with non-governmental organizations. That arrangement is now giving way for a bigger, better equipped facility which stands 32 kilometers away from the collapsed building location.
Nobody expected this would happen, but as soon as it happened, we threw open this camp. This camp has not been used for some time. It's not a daily thing. Of course, to bring people here is better late than never, because if you bring them here and it is in a worse state, the state will still be criticized. Now let them criticize the state for doing the best, even though late.
It is 2 weeks already since the Itafaji Lagos building collapsed, and this facility behind me is expected to house victims of that building collapse and those displaced in the ongoing demolition on Lagos Island. But currently, this facility is deserted. The Lagos State Emergency Management Agency says this facility is expected to run for 3 months with a possibility of an extension.
I'm shocked because the way they even came to us this morning and tell us that we are going to move from here to Igondo, I don't know, whatever they call it. I'm not satisfied.
The Lagos State Emergency Management Agency says some of the displaced persons will be moving into the facility in the coming days. But there are questions raised over the timely and effective intervention in emergency management in Nigeria.
You're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, reaching you live from Lagos. Let's quickly switch over to our Abuja studios now, where Ibrahim Adra is standing by to take us through a couple of more stories. Ibrahim.
Hello, Gimba. Thank you for joining us. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, says the national budget over the years does not reflect national values and priorities. Mr. Dogara maintains that Nigeria has been routinely saddled with budgets, which the framers are aware cannot be implemented up to 100%. He was speaking at a National Assembly budget hearing in Abuja. Correspondent Linda Higbe reports.
The annual national budget hearing is the creation of the 8th National Assembly, where government officials, civil society organizations and interest groups are brought in to make inputs into the national budget. This is another budget hearing, the last one in the 8th Assembly, and a time for stock-taking of the budget process in the last 4 years.
This hearing offers us, as representatives of the people, a duty to hear the people's perspective on the proposed distribution of our common wealth.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives is not happy with the national budget presented by the executive in the last few years.
Over the years, the main problem with our budget as submitted by the executive has been that it does not reflect national values and priorities. The budget more often than not only reflects the values and priorities of those who help in crafting it. It is very painful that for some years now, our budget process has been an exercise in either or a combination of audacious optimism and of hypocrisy, involving key actors putting together a budget that they fully know would at best be implemented 45%, which by all standards is below average.
While the Speaker is a strong critic of the federal government's budget performance, which he says is below average, the Minister of Finance argues that the performance is not that appalling. But she admits that Nigeria has significant revenue challenges and explains how the federal government is confronting this problem.
It is not a very bad performance, considering the fact that the capital budget only became operational after the budget was signed into law in June. We plan to grow revenues by implementing new taxes, broadening the tax base and enabling strategic investments that will spur economic growth. We also are continuously working to broaden the tax base, to expand and improve the value-added tax VAT performance.
Moving beyond the blame game between the executive and the National Assembly, over who is to blame for the persistent late passage of the budget. What is important is that Nigeria gets a working budget which meets the aspirations of the people as soon as possible. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
And thanks, Linda. Meanwhile, the federal government has approved the establishment of a ministerial committee to come up with an alternative means of financing the nation's infrastructure. Speaking after the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Okechukwu Enelama, noted that the target is to boost infrastructure spending significantly over the next 5 years. Meanwhile, the Council equally approved 1.4 billion naira for the design of a new head office for the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR. The design of the proposed 12-floor building will cost 1.4 billion naira.
The Council also approved the establishment of a committee to work together to basically come up with alternative ways to add to the work the government is already doing to finance infrastructure. We would like to see infrastructure spending go up considerably, and therefore the Council approved that a committee of ministers and ICRC, the Director General of ICRC, the Chief Executive Officer of African Finance Corporation, and the Executive Secretary of Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, and also the Chief Executive Officer of Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, and a number of private sector players have been co-opted, will work together to basically come with a recommendation to the Cabinet on how to increase our infrastructure spending significantly. Our target will be we would like to see infrastructure spending increase to the $10 to $20 billion range per year over the next 5 to 10 years, because we think that's the level of our needs. But obviously, government cannot do it alone. So we want to partner with other stakeholders to do it. And like I said, this report is meant to be done as part of the concluding work of this administration and will be tabled to the Cabinet in the next 1 month or so.
We'll take a moment, but when the news at 10 returns, speakers at First Bank's 125th anniversary seek creation of jobs, quality health facilities and qualitative education to achieve economic growth in Nigeria. Do join us again.